Once upon a time, there lived two best friends named Janet and Judy. They were so close that nothing could ever come between them. Janet was 26 years old, with long, coily brown hair and bright black eyes. She loved going out and dreamed of marrying a rich man so she could live in a big house and have lots of nice things. But Janet's boyfriend, Louis, wasn't rich at all. This made Janet very worried. Janet had no parents. She was an orphan. She worked very hard to finish school, and Louis helped her a lot. On the other hand, Judy was 23 years old and had short, spiky black hair and sharp brown eyes. Judy was very hardworking and only cared about getting a good job. She wanted to help her poor parents, who did everything they could to make sure Judy got a good education. Judy was very strong and determined, and Janet often relied on her. Even though Janet and Judy were different, they shared a strong friendship. They grew up together in a small village and had many adventures. Janet could be impulsive and get into trouble, but Judy was always there to help her out. Before they moved to the city, they lived with Judy's parents, who loved Janet like their own daughter. After they finished school, Janet and Judy decided to move to the city together. They wanted to start a new life. They found a small apartment and lived there, supporting each other through the good times and the bad times. Janet got a job as a secretary, and Judy started working in finance. Louis had promised to marry Janet, but she said no because he wasn't rich. Louis loved Janet very much, but she wanted money and comfort more than love. One evening, Janet came home crying. She told Judy she was pregnant with Louis's baby. Judy was happy for her and told her that having a baby was a wonderful thing. But Janet was very upset. She said she didn't want to have the baby because Louis couldn't take care of them. Judy begged her to think about it and said things would get better. But Janet didn't want to listen. When Janet told Louis she was pregnant, he was very happy, but Janet wasn't happy at all. She said she would get rid of the baby because Louis wasn't a rich man. Louis tried to change her mind, but she wouldn't listen. Louis then asked Judy for help. After a long talk, Judy convinced Janet to keep the baby. Janet agreed, but only if she didn't have to work and if Louis and Judy took care of her. Months passed, and Janet had a beautiful baby boy. But instead of being happy, Janet felt even worse. She didn't want to raise a child with someone who wasn't rich. 2 weeks after the baby was born, while Judy was at work, Janet left a note on the baby's crib and disappeared. The note said, "I can't take care of this baby. I can't be with Louis because he is too poor for my liking." When Judy came home, she found the note and the baby crying. She was very sad. She tried calling Janet, but Janet's phone was off. Judy told Louis, and together they searched everywhere for Janet. They even called the police, but they couldn't find her. Judy made a promise that day. She promised to take care of the baby, who they named Jason. Judy decided to be Jason's mother and give him all the love and care he needed. Judy was heartbroken when Janet left, but she knew she had to stay strong for Jason. She poured all her love and energy into raising the little boy. Louis, though grateful to Judy for caring for his son, felt lost and betrayed by Janet's abandonment. As days turned into weeks, Judy and Jason grew closer, forming an unbreakable bond. Judy's parents, who had always been like family to Janet, were devastated by her actions. They offered to help Judy raise Jason, and together they created a loving and stable environment for him. However, Judy's worry about Jason, who was living with her parents in the village, affected her concentration at work. She started making mistakes in her accounting job, leading to a big problem for the company. Her boss called her into his office and told her she was fired and had to pay a certain amount because of her errors. Devastated and weak, Judy received a call from Louis, who sensed something was wrong. She tried to stay composed, but Louis knew she was hiding something. He shared his good news. He had landed a new job at a reputable company, complete with an official car, apartment, and training abroad for 6 months. Judy was overjoyed, knowing that Jason would finally receive support from his father. After their conversation, Louis sent a large amount of money to Judy as a token of appreciation. She tried to reject the money, but he insisted it was for her and his son. Before leaving the country, Louis gave Judy his company provided apartment so she wouldn't have to pay rent. 6 months later, Louis returned from his training abroad. While he was away, he regularly sent money for Judy and Jason. When he returned, the first people he visited were Judy and Jason at his company apartment. They were very happy to see him, and he was equally happy to see them. Louis got another apartment for himself, so Judy wouldn't be inconvenienced in the company's apartment. Soon, he noticed Judy wasn't going to work anymore and asked her why. She opened up and told him the truth. He apologized and promised to take care of her and her parents. Within 2 years, Louis excelled rapidly and opened his own business. He became wealthy and bought a big mansion where he moved Judy and Jason. They all started living there like a family. He also opened a very big business for Judy. Meanwhile, Janet was living a life of luxury with a wealthy businessman named Henry. She had met him at a high-end party and was swept off her feet by his charm and wealth. One afternoon, Janet's friend, Juliet, visited her at Henry's house. As they chatted and watched TV, a news flash caught their attention. Louis was being awarded the Best Businessman of the Year award. To Janet's surprise, Judy, Jason, and Judy's parents were by his side. She was stunned and turned to Juliet, saying, "That's my ex, Louis, and my son beside him." Juliet was astonished and asked, "What? Why did you leave Louis and your son behind?" Janet explained, "Louis was very poor. He could barely feed himself, and I couldn't take it. I thought he would never amount to anything." Juliet was even more surprised. But wait, Louis is receiving the Best Businessman award. How is that possible? Janet's eyes widened in disbelief. She realized how much she had underestimated Louis. She was shocked by his remarkable success and felt a pang of regret for leaving him and their son behind. The scene opened with a vibrant birthday party celebrating Jason's third birthday. Louis, Judy, her parents, and close friends were all in attendance, beaming with joy. Colorful balloons and streamers filled the room, and a big banner read "Happy Third Birthday, Jason." As they sang happy birthday, Jason's face lit up with excitement, his eyes sparkling with delight. Amidst the festivities, Louis took a moment to pull out a small box, revealing a stunning engagement ring. He got down on one knee, his eyes locked on Judy's, and proposed. The room fell silent, with all eyes on Judy. She looked at him with a mix of surprise and hesitation, her hands trembling. "Louis, I can't accept this, she stammered. Janet is still out there and she's my best friend. What if she finds out? What would she think of me? Louis's expression was understanding, but he gently persuaded her. Judy, Janet is my past. You are my present and future. I love you and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Her parents and friends echoed their support, encouraging her to accept the proposal. Jason, with his innocent eyes, added his own plea. Mommy, please say yes. We want you to be happy. The room erupted in applause as Judy finally accepted the ring. Louis rose to his feet and they shared a tender embrace. After the birthday party, Judy still looked concerned, but Jason's gentle touch brought a smile to her face. Mommy, smile please, he said, and she hugged him tightly. Some time later, Louis and Judy tied the knot in an exclusive intimate ceremony. Surrounded by loved ones, they exchanged vows, promising a lifetime of love and commitment. As they danced their first dance as a husband and wife, the room was filled with joy and celebration. Meanwhile, in another part of town, Janet's friend Juliet visited Henry's office with the intention of seducing him. But Henry pushed her away, asking insultingly how she could think of seducing her friend's soon-to-be husband. I truly love you, Henry, Juliet replied. But Janet only loves your money, not you. She abandoned her baby just few weeks after giving birth, and her man because he was poor. Is that the kind of person you want to marry? Henry was surprised and accused Juliet of lying. But she shot back. If you think I'm lying, then go and confront Juliet. You will know the truth. With that, she stormed out of his office. After Juliet left, Henry's mind raced with worry, and he decided to confront Janet at home. When he arrived, Janet welcomed him warmly, but he told her not to touch him until she answered his questions. Have you given birth before? He asked sternly. Why are you asking? Janet replied. Just give me a yes or no, Henry demanded. She hesitated before saying yes. Henry then asked, did you leave your ex because he was poor? She tried to avoid the question, but Henry shouted at her until she finally admitted, yes. Henry was furious. So it means you are with me only for money. If I go broke, you will abandon me too, just like you abandoned your newborn baby, he exclaimed. Janet, you have no place in my house and life. With that, Henry went inside, threw her belongings out and pushed her away, ignoring her pleas. Janet was left outside for hours, eventually deciding to go to a hotel to stay. But when she tried to use her ATM cards, she discovered they didn't work. With no other choice, she decided to call Judy's number. Judy's phone rang as she was putting Jason to bed. She saw Janet's name on the screen and hesitated before answering. Hello, she said cautiously. Judy, it's me. Janet's voice trembled on the other end. I need your help. Judy took a deep breath, torn between anger and sympathy. Janet, what do you want? I'm in trouble, Janet admitted. Henry kicked me out and my cards aren't working. I have nowhere else to go. Judy felt a pang of pity despite everything. Come to our house. We will talk. When Janet arrived, she was greeted by a weary Lois and a curious Jason. Judy led her to the living room, where they sat in awkward silence. Why did you come back, Janet? Judy finally asked. Janet looked down, ashamed. I made a mistake. I realize now that I was wrong to leave Lois and Jason. I was so focused on money that I didn't see what really mattered. Louis sighed. Janet, it's not going to be easy for us to trust you again. But for Jason's sake, we will try to help you. Judy nodded. We'll give you a place to stay until you get on your feet. But you have to promise to change." Janet nodded, tears in her eyes. "I promise, thank you." As Janet settled into her new life with Judy and Louis, she slowly began to rebuild her relationship with her son. It was a long road, but with time, patience, and love, they started to heal as a family. As time went by, Judy became sick, so Louis took her to the hospital. There, they discovered she was pregnant, and they were both super excited. Louis couldn't wait to share the news with his family, so he rushed home from the hospital, excitement radiating from every step. As he opened the door, he was greeted by the beaming faces of Jason and Judy's mother, who were sitting in the living room. "Guess what, guys?" Louis announced, hardly able to contain his joy. "We're having another baby. Judy is pregnant again." Jason's eyes widened with delight. "Really? I'm going to be a big brother," he exclaimed, jumping up from the couch. Louis laughed, scooping up his son in a tight embrace. "That's right, buddy. You are going to have a new sibling to play with and protect." Judy's mother smiled, her eyes shining with happiness. "This is wonderful news, Louis. Congratulations to you and Judy." Louis grinned, feeling like the luckiest man alive. "Thanks, Mom. We are all thrilled. And Jason, you are going to be an amazing big brother. I know you will help take care of your new sibling, right?" Jason nodded, already imagining all the fun he would have with his new sibling. "Can we have a baby shower?" "Please, Dad. I want to help pick out toys and clothes for the baby." Louis chuckled, ruffling his son's hair. "Okay, of course. We'll have a baby shower, and you can definitely help with the preparations. We'll make it a fun family affair." As they all hugged and celebrated, Louis felt grateful for this new chapter in their lives. He knew that, with Judy by his side and their loving family around them, they would face any challenges that came their way together and strong. Meanwhile, Janet, after some time of trying to win Jason's attention and no improvement, she became jealous of everything going on in the house because it feels like she wasn't noticed. She became angry and vowed to get Louis and Jason's love again, no matter what it takes. So she packed out of the house. Judy tried talking with her, but she was too frustrated to answer her. She stormed into her hotel room, frustration etched on her face. She decided to reach out to a contact who connected her with a group of unsavory individuals. They agreed to kidnap Judy and Jason on their way to school on Monday morning. The goons demanded a hefty sum from Janet, which she paid. On Monday morning, as Judy and Jason were on their way to school, the group of men struck, kidnapping both of them. They were blindfolded and taken to an abandoned building in the woods, where Janet waited. When they brought Judy and Jason before her, Janet quickly untied Jason and embraced him. However, Jason pushed her away, and Janet's anger flared up. She almost slapped him, but restrained herself, instead playfully stroking his cheeks. Next, she removed the blindfold from Judy's eyes, taunting and insulting her. Janet asked Judy to call Louis, but she refused. Janet threatened to harm Jason if Judy fails to call Louis. Judy reluctantly complied, and Louis answered, sensing the fear in her voice. But Janet snatched the phone away, demanding a substantial sum of money in exchange for their safety. Louis pleaded with her to release his family, promising to transfer the money immediately. Without hesitation, Louis transferred 10 million naira to Janet's account. Louis was very worried after he sent the money to Janet, but didn't hear anything from her. He decided to call her. Before calling, he told the police, who instructed him to keep the conversation long so they could track the call. Louis called Janet and asked, "Can you release my family now that you have received the money?" Janet replied, "Not until you tell my son the truth, that I'm his real mother, not Judy. Tell him how she stole you away from me and make him hate Judy." "I can't tell my son lies, Janet." Louis refused. Janet laughed in a mean way and said, "Then be prepared to lose your precious wife." Louis pleaded with her not to harm Judy. He kept talking to buy more time, then asked Janet to put Jason on the phone. When Jason answered, Louis reluctantly told him what Janet had instructed, but he skipped the part about Judy stealing him from her. Jason didn't believe his father's words. He had always trusted Judy's love and care for him. Instead of continuing the call, he ran to hug Judy, tears streaming down his face. Janet shouted in frustration, "You are my child. She's not your mom. She stole your dad away from me." Seeing how scared Jason was, Judy ran to hug him, but Janet pushed her away, making her fall. Jason held Judy tightly, refusing to let go. Janet's words and action only made him love Judy even more. Just then, the police burst into the abandoned building. Having tracked the location of the call, they arrested Janet and her helpers, putting an end to the nightmare. As Janet was led away in handcuffs, Louis rushed to his family's side, relieved and gratitude on his face. "Are you both okay?" he asked, hugging Judy and Jesse tightly. Judy nodded, tears of joy streaming down her face. "We are safe now. Thank you. Thank you so much." Jesse clung to Judy, still upset by Janet's cruel words. Louis knelt down and looked into his son's eye. "Remember, Jason, no matter what anyone says, this is your mother in every way that counts. She loves you, and we both love you more than anything." Jason nodded, a small smile on his face as the three of them shared a warm embrace. Louis finally took his family home, feeling a huge sense of relief and gratitude to have them safe and sound. The scary experience had brought them even closer together, and they cherished every moment as a family. Months went by, and Judy's belly grew with a new life, a sweet baby girl who would complete their happy family. They eagerly prepared for her arrival, setting up the nursery and picking out adorable outfits. Finally, the day arrived, and Judy gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. They named her Emily. Louis was overjoyed, holding her tiny fingers in his arms and feeling his heart overflow with love. Emily was a tiny bundle of joy. She had the most adorable little nose and big curious eyes. Judy and Louis were over the moon with happiness. Jason was excited to be a big brother. He would often sit by Emily's crib, singing lullabies and watching her sleep. Life was peaceful and happy for the family. They spent their days playing in the garden, going for walks and enjoying each other's company. Jason loved showing Emily his favorite toys and telling her stories. Even though she was too young to understand, he liked seeing her smile and hearing her little giggles. One evening, while they were all sitting together for dinner, Judy noticed Jason looking a bit sad. "What is wrong, Jason?" she asked gently. Jason looked down at his plate. "I was just thinking about what that lady said. She said you weren't my real mom." Judy's heart ached. She put her hand on Jason's shoulder. "Jason, being a mom isn't just about who gave birth to you. It's about who loves you and takes care of you. I love you very much, and I will always be here for you." Louis nodded in agreement. "Your mom is right, Jason. Family is about love, not just about blood. And we all love each other very much. Jason looked up and smiled, feeling reassured. I love you too, Mom. I love you too, Dad. And I love Emily. As days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, Emily grew quickly. She started to recognize everyone's faces and respond with joyful laughters. Jason was proud to help take care of her. He would bring her toys, help feed her, and even try to make her laugh with his funny faces. Janet had served her prison sentence. She had spent many lonely nights thinking about her past mistakes and regretting her actions. When she was finally released, she decided to find Lois, Judy, and Jason. She hoped they might forgive her and let her see her son. Janet knew it would be difficult. She had done terrible things, but she was determined to make amends. She wanted to show them that she had changed. With a heavy heart and hopeful spirit, she set out to find them. One sunny afternoon, as Judy and Jason were playing in the park with Emily, Janet appeared at a distance. She watched them for a moment, her heart aching with regret. She gathered her courage and walked towards them. When Judy saw Janet approaching, she felt a mix of emotions. She remembered the pain and fear Janet had caused, but she also saw the sorrow in her eyes. Janet stood a few steps away, hesitating. "Hello, Judy," Janet said softly. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I want to see my son. I want to show him that I'm not the person I used to be." Judy looked at Jason, who was playing happily with Emily. She thought about the loving family they had built. She knew this was not a decision she could make alone. "We need to talk to Lois about it," Judy replied. "It's not just my decision." That evening, Judy and Lois sat down to talk. Judy shared what had happened at the park. "Please, honey," Judy pleaded, "let us reunite Jason and Janet, no matter what. She's still his mother." Lois's face hardened. "Sweet, please don't go there. The mother of a child is not necessarily the one who gave birth to him. That woman abandoned Jason when he was just 2 weeks old. What if you weren't there for him? Which baby will she see and want to reunite with?" Judy saw the pain and anger in Lois's eyes. She knew how deeply he loved Jason and how protective he felt. She tried to push the idea gently, but when she saw it wasn't yielding any result, she gave up. "All right, Lois," Judy said softly. "I won't push it anymore. I just want what's best for our family." Lois nodded, feeling relieved. "Thank you, Judy. I know you mean well, but I can't trust Janet, not after everything." Days turned into weeks, and Janet continued to try to reach out. She sent letters, apologizing and asking for a chance to see Jason. She even tried calling, but Lois and Judy ignored her attempts. They were determined to protect their family from any more pain. One evening, as Judy was putting Emily to bed, Jason came into the room. He had found one of Janet's letters that had accidentally slipped under the door. "Mom, who is this letter from?" Jason asked, holding it up. Judy's heart sank. She took a deep breath and sat down next to Jason. "It's from Janet, your birth mother." Jason looked confused. "Why is she writing to us?" "She wants to see you," Judy explained gently. "But your dad and I have decided that it's not a good idea right now." Jason thought for a moment. "But if she's sorry and wants to be better, shouldn't we give her a chance?" Judy hugged Jason tightly. "It's complicated, Jason. Your dad and I want to protect you. We don't want you to get hurt." Jason nodded, understanding but still curious. "Okay, Mom, I trust you and Dad." That night, Judy lay awake. thinking about Jason's word. She knew Louis was right to be cautious, but she also felt that everyone deserved a second chance. She decided to talk to Louis again, but this time she would wait until the moment was right. Meanwhile, Janet continued to hope. She spent her days volunteering and trying to show that she had changed. She wanted to prove to everyone, especially Jason, that she was a better person now. While Louis was at work one day, Janet saw Judy and Jason at the park again. She approached them cautiously. "Judy, please," she said, her voice trembling. "Just let me talk to Jason for a moment. I promise I won't do anything to hurt him." Judy looked at Jason, who was watching curiously. She felt torn, but she also saw the sincerity in Janet's eyes. "All right," Judy said finally, but for a moment. Janet knelt down to Jason's level. "Hi, Jason. I'm Janet. I'm your birth mother." Jason looked at her with wide eyes. "Why did you leave me?" Tears filled Janet's eyes. "I made a terrible mistake, Jason. I was scared and selfish, but I regret it every day. I want to make things right. Can you ever forgive me?" Jason looked at Judy, who nodded encouragingly. He then turned back to Janet. "I don't know if I can forgive you yet, but maybe we can just get to know each other." Janet smiled through her tears. "That's all I asked, Jason. Thank you." Judy watched as Jason and Janet talked for a little while. She saw how much it meant to both of them and felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could find a way to heal and move forward. When Louis came home that evening, Judy told him what had happened. Louis listened quietly, his expression unreadable. "I understand why you did it," Louis said finally, "but I'm still not sure if I can trust her." "We will take it slow," Judy suggested. "We can control the situation and make sure Jason is safe, but I think it's worth a try." Louis sighed, feeling conflicted. "All right, we will see how it goes. But if she does anything to hurt Jason, I won't hesitate to end it." Judy nodded, grateful for Louis's understanding. "Thank you, Louis. We will do this together." As the days passed, Janet visited occasionally, always under Judy or Louis's watchful eye. She was patient and gentle, gradually building a fragile bond with Jason. They shared stories, played games, and started to understand each other better. One day, as they were all together in the park, Jason looked up at Louis and Judy. "Thank you for giving Janet a chance," he said. "I know it's hard, but I think it's the right thing to do." Louis smiled, ruffling Jason's hair. "We are proud of you, Jason. You have a big heart, and that's what makes you special." Janet watched, tears of gratitude in her eyes. She knew she had a long way to go, but for the first time in a long time, she felt hope. She was determined to prove to Louis, Judy, and especially Jason that she could be the mother he deserved. As the sun set and they all walked home together, they felt a sense of peace. They knew the road ahead would be challenging, but they also knew they had the strength and love to face it together. Louis had seen the change in Janet. She had been visiting Jason regularly and showing genuine effort to make things right. After much thought, he decided to give her another chance. He wanted to help her get back on track. So he thought about getting her a job. But first, he needed to talk to Judy about it. One evening, after dinner, Louis sat down with Judy. "I've been thinking, honey," he began. "Janet has really changed. She's trying so hard to make amends. I want to help her get a job in our company. What do you think?" Judy listened carefully. She had also noticed Janet's efforts and could see how much Jason appreciated having his birth mother around him. If you believe she has changed, then I support you, Judy replied. Everyone deserves a second chance. Let's help her get back on her feet. Louis felt relieved. He knew Judy's support was crucial. The next day, he spoke to the HR department and managed to secure a position for Janet in the accounting department. He was happy to be able to help her and eager to share the news with Judy and Janet. That evening, Louis and Judy invited Janet over to their house. Janet arrived, looking a bit nervous, unsure of why she was called. When she entered, she saw Louis and Judy smiling warmly at her. Janet, Louis began, with the permission of my wife, I have managed to secure a position for you in our company in the accounting department. Janet's eye widened in shock. What? She exclaimed, unable to believe what she was hearing. Tears filled her eyes as she knelt down, overwhelmed with gratitude. Thank you so much, Judy. Thank you, Louis. My God will bless you both. Judy stepped forward and helped Janet stand up. Janet, she said, kindly try to put up a good character and fix yourself. I believe God has a good plan for you. Janet nodded, wiping away her tears. I will, Judy, I promise. I will work hard and make you all proud. Thank you for giving me this chance. The next day, Janet started her new job. She was nervous but determined to prove herself. The office was big and bustling, and she felt a bit out of place at first, but she was greeted warmly by her new colleagues who helped her settle in. As the weeks went by, Janet worked hard in her new role. She arrived early and stayed late, learning everything she could. She made sure to be polite and kind to everyone, wanting to show that she was serious about turning her life around. At home, Jason was excited to hear about Janet's new job. Does this mean she will be around more? He asked Judy one day. Yes, Jason, Judy replied with a smile. She's trying to make a better life for herself and be a part of your life too. Jason nodded, feeling happy. He loved Judy and Louis dearly, but was also glad to see his birth mother trying to change. It made him feel hopeful about the future. One day, Louis decided to visit Janet at work. He wanted to see how she was doing and make sure she was settling in well. When he arrived, he found her deeply engrossed in her work. She looked up and smiled when she saw him. Hello, Louis, she greeted warmly. How are you? I'm good. Janet, Louis replied. I just wanted to see how you are doing. How is the job treating you? Janet beamed. It's going well, very well. Everything is nice. Everyone here is so helpful, and I am learning a lot. Thank you once again for everything. Louis nodded, feeling proud of Janet's progress. I'm glad to hear that. Janet, keep up the good work. We are all rooting for you. As the months passed, Janet continued to do well in her job. She gained the respect of her colleagues and even got a small promotion. She was earning enough to support herself and was no longer dependent on anyone else. At home, Louis and Judy were happy to see Janet's transformation. They had given her a chance, and she had proven herself worthy of their trust. Jason too was happy to see his birth mother doing well and being a positive part of his life. One evening, as they sat around the dinner table, Louis looked at his family and felt a deep sense of gratitude. I'm so proud of how far we've come, he said, smiling at Judy, Jason and little Emily. We've been through so much. We've been through a lot, but we faced it together. Judy nodded, her heart full. Yes, we have. And it brought us closer as a family. Jason grinned. And we have Janet now too. I'm glad she's doing better. Me too, Jason. Judy said, it's important to give people a chance to change and grow. We are all better for it. Janet continued to visit them regularly, and each time she brought a little more joy and peace into their lives. She never forgot the kindness Louis and Judy had shown her and made sure to be there for Jason whenever he needed her. Louis decided to check on Janet one afternoon. He wanted to make sure she was doing well in her new job. He walked into the office building and went straight to the accounting department. When he reached Janet's desk, she looked up and smiled warmly. "Hello, Lois," Janet greeted. "What a nice surprise. How are you?" "I'm doing well, Janet," Louis replied. "I just wanted to see how you are settling in." Janet stood up and walked around her desk, coming closer to Louis. "I'm doing great, thank you," she said, her voice soft. She looked into his eyes, and Louis felt a bit uneasy. "That's good to hear," he responded, taking a small step back. But Janet didn't back off. Instead, she moved even closer, her hand lightly brushing against his arms. "Louis," she whispered, "I've missed you. Remember the good times we had together. Don't you ever think about us?" Louis felt a rush of past memories flooding his mind. For a moment, he was carried away, remembering the time when they were together. But then, he suddenly realized what was happening. He loved Judy and couldn't let anything come between them. "Stop, Janet," Louis said, pushing her aside gently. "I love Judy and I can't trade that love for anything. Don't ever try this again." Janet's face turned red with embarrassment and regret. "I'm sorry, Lois," she stammered. I just thought." But Louis didn't wait for her to finish. He stormed out of the office, his heart pounding with anger and guilt. How could he have let things go far? Even for a moment, he felt terrible. When Louis got home, Judy immediately noticed that something was wrong. He wasn't his usual cheerful self. His face was tense and his eyes were troubled. "Louis," Judy said gently, "is something bothering you?" Louis hesitated. He didn't want to hurt Judy, but he knew he had to be honest. He took a deep breath and began to explain what had happened at Judy's office. "Sweetheart," Louis started, "I need to tell you something. Today, when I went to check on Janet at work, she tried to seduce me." Judith's eyes widened in surprise, but she stayed silent, listening. At first, Louis continued, "I was carried away by old memories, but then I realized what was happening and I pushed her away. I told her I love you and that she should never try that again. I promise you nothing more happened and it will never happen again." Judy remained silent, processing what she had just heard. Louis felt a lump in his throat, worried about what she might say or do next. "Judy, I'm so sorry," he said, his voice breaking. "I promise it won't happen again." Judy still didn't say anything. She just looked at Louis, her face calm but serious. Louis wished he could read her mind and know what she was thinking. After what felt like eternity, Judy finally spoke. "Thank you for telling me the truth, Louis," she said quietly. "I need some time to think about this." Louis nodded, understanding. "I understand, Judy. I'll give you all the time you need. I love you and I'm so sorry." Judy nodded, then stood up and walked to the bedroom, leaving Louis alone in the living room. He sat down on the couch, his head in his hand, feeling the weight of his mistakes. Louis still sitting on the couch, his mind racing with worry and regret. He couldn't stop thinking about what had happened with Janet and how it might affect his relationship with Judy. He loved Judy deeply and hated himself for even briefly getting caught up to Janet's action. He knew he had to make things right. The next morning, Judy was quiet. She went about her usual routine, getting Jessie ready for school and taking care of baby Emily. Louis wanted to talk to her, but he didn't want to push her. He knew she needed time to process everything. Later that day, when Jason was at school and Emily was napping, Judy sat down with Louis at the kitchen table. She looked at him with a serious expression, and Louis's heart pounded in his chest. Louis, Judy began, I've been thinking a lot about what you told me. I appreciate your honesty, but I need to know that I can trust you completely. Louis nodded, his eyes filled with remorse. I understand, Judy. I promise I'll never let anything like that happen again. You and our family mean everything to me. Judy sighed, her expression softening a little. I believe you, Louis, but I need you to prove it to me. We need to rebuild that trust. Louis reached across the table and took her hand. I will do whatever it takes. Judy, I love you so much. Judy squeezed his hand and gave him a small reassuring smile. I love you too. Louis, let's work on this together. Over the next few days, Louis made every effort to show Judy how much he loved her. He spent more time with the family, helping with chores and taking care of the children. He also avoided any unnecessary contact with Janet, focusing on his work and his family. One afternoon, while Judy was in the garden with Jason and Emily, Louis sat down with her. Judy, he said, I've been thinking about Janet. I think it's best if we find another job for her somewhere else. It will be better for everyone. Judy nodded. I agree, Louis. It's clear that having her around is causing too much stress. We need to focus on our family. Louis contacted a friend who owned a business in a nearby town and managed to get Janet a new job there. He called Janet to inform her about the new position. Janet, Louis said, I found you a new job. It's a good opportunity and it's best for everyone if you take it. Janet was silent for a moment before responding. I understand, Louis. Thank you for helping me. I'm sorry for everything. Louis felt a mix of relief and sadness. I hope you do well, Janet. Take care. As the weeks went by, life slowly returned to normal for Louis and Judy. They continued to work on their relationship and their bond grew stronger. They enjoyed watching Jason and Emily play together and they cherished the moments they spent as a family. One evening, after putting the children to bed, Louis and Judy sat on the couch, looking at the stars. Louis took Judy's hand and kissed it. Thank you for giving me another chance, Louis said softly. Judy smiled and rested her head on his shoulder. We are a team, Louis. We will always have each other's backs. Janet had been working in her new office for a few weeks now. At first, she found it hard to fit in. Everything felt different, and she missed her old routine. But slowly, she began to adapt. She learned to navigate the office, got to know her co-workers, and started feeling more comfortable. One day, as she was heading to the break room to get a cup of coffee, she bumped into someone she never expected to see again. It was Henry, her ex-boyfriend from before she was with Lois. Janet froze to a moment, surprised and unsure of what to do. Henry looked just as shocked as Janet. Janet, is that you? He asked, his eyes wide. Janet hesitated, thinking about just walking past him. But before she could make a decision, Henry gently touched her arm, stopping her. Please, can we talk for a moment? He asked. We've both grown and changed since we last saw each other. Janet took a deep breath and decided to stay. Okay, Henry, but I don't have much time. I have a lot of work to do in my office. Henry smiled, relieved that she agreed to talk. I understand. I never expected to see you here. Janet nodded. It's a small world. I guess so. How have you been? Henry shrugged. I've been alright. Busy with work. Like everyone else. What about you? How are things? Janet glanced around, feeling a bit awkward. I'm doing okay. It's been a tough few years, but I'm trying to get back on track. They talked for a few minutes, catching up on the basics of their lives. Henry told her about his job and some of the changes he had gone through. Janet shared a little about her own position and how she was adjusting. After a while, Janet looked at her watch. I really need to get back to the office now. Henry, I have a lot of work on my desk. Henry nodded understandingly. Of course, but can we exchange contacts? Maybe we can catch up properly sometime. Janet thought about it for a moment. It wouldn't hurt to stay in touch. She decided, alright, let's exchange numbers. They quickly swapped contact information. Thanks, Janet, Henry said, giving her a warm smile. I will reach out soon. Maybe we can grab a coffee or something. Janet nodded. Sure, that sounds nice. Take care, Henry. With that, she walked away, heading back to her desk. As she sat down and resumed her work, she couldn't help but think about the unexpected encounter. Seeing Henry brought back a lot of memories, both good and bad. She wondered what it would be like to sit down and talk with him properly after all these years. For now, though, she had to focus on her job. She had made a promise to herself to turn her life around, and she was determined to keep it. Janet worked hard for the rest of the day, making sure she stayed on top of her task. When the workday finally ended, Janet packed up her things and headed home. She felt a mix of emotions as she walked. Running into Henry had been surprising, but it also made her realize how far she had come. She was no longer the same person she used to be. At home, Janet thought about her day. She was proud of how she had handled herself at work and how she had stayed calm when she saw Henry. She knew that rebuilding her life would take time, but she was on the right path. As she got ready for bed, Janet received a message on her phone. It was from Henry. It was nice seeing you today. Let's plan to meet up soon. Have a good night. Janet smiled at the message. She replied, It was nice seeing you too. Let's definitely catch up. Good night. As she turned off her phone and climbed into bed, Janet felt a sense of hope. She had been given a second chance, and she was determined to make the most of it. Meeting Henry again was just a reminder of how much she had grown and changed. One weekend, Henry and Janet finally met up. They chose a cozy little cafe with a warm, welcoming atmosphere. It was a perfect place to catch up and talk about everything that had happened in their lives. As they sat down and with their drinks, Henry started the conversation. I'm really glad we could meet today, Janet, he said with a smile. Me too, Henry, Janet replied. It's been such a long time. How have you been? Henry took a sip of his coffee and then began to share his story. He told Janet about his job, his hobbies, and the things that had changed in his life. Then he paused for a moment, looking a bit more serious. There is something I need to tell you, Henry said. Do you remember your friend Juliet? Janet nodded. Yes, I remember her. We used to be very close then. Henry sighed. Well, after you left Louis, Juliet came to me and told me some things. She said you had a child that you abandoned and that you left your boyfriend because he was broke. I didn't know what to think at that time. Janet's eyes widened in surprise. Juliet told you that? I can't believe it. Henry nodded. Yes, she did. But here is the thing. Juliet was trying to get close to me. She made passes at me, and after a while, she managed to creep into my life. We dated for almost a year. Janet was shocked. Juliet and you? I had no idea. Henry continued. Dating Juliet was the worst mistake of my life. She pretended to be someone she wasn't, and it took me a long time to realize the true identity. Janet felt tears welling up in her eyes. She couldn't believe that Juliet, someone she had trusted and helped, would do something so terrible. So Juliet was jealous of me all this time, but she pretended to be my friend, she said, letting out a tear. Henry offered her his handkerchief. Please, let's not let Juliet's misfortune spoil this moment. He said gently, I'm really sorry for what had happened. I actually want you back in my life again. Janet had been hoping to hear those words from Henry, but she felt confused and unsure. Henry, I need some time to think about everything, she said softly. Of course, Janet, Henry replied. Take all the time you need. They continued to talk, sharing stories and memories. It felt good to be connected and remembering the old good times they had shared. After spending a lovely time together, they both went their separate ways, promising to stay in touch. On Henry's way back home, he felt a mix of excitement and hope. He silently prayed that Janet would give him a positive response. He really wanted to make things right and build a future with her. Meanwhile, Janet felt a bit scared. She didn't know what the future held for her, and she was worried about the decision she had made. She also thought about Judy. After the incident with Louis in her office, she hadn't found the right words to approach her and apologize. Janet decided to send Judy a text message. She wrote, Dear Judy, I am so sorry for the series of betrayals I have caused in our friendship. Please find it in your heart to forgive me. You are a true friend indeed. Much love from me. As she sent the message, Janet felt a little better. She knew that she had to face her past and make amends. She hoped that Judy would forgive her and that they could rebuild their friendship. At home, Judy received Janet's message. She read it carefully, feeling a mix of emotions. She had been hurt by Janet's actions, but she also remembered the good times they had shared. Judy decided to give it some thought before responding. Meanwhile, Janet tried to stay positive. She focused on her work, hoping that things would get better. She knew that she had a lot to think about, but she was determined to move forward. Henry, on the other hand, couldn't stop thinking about Janet. He hoped that she would give him another chance. He knew that he had made mistakes in the past, but he wanted to make things right. He believed that they could build a happy future together. As the days went by, both Janet and Henry thought about their meeting. They knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but they were willing to try. They hoped that with time and effort, they could overcome the challenges and find happiness. Janet and Henry met several more times over the next few weeks. Each time they met, they felt their bond growing stronger. They laughed, talked, and shared their dreams. They enjoyed each other's company and felt happier than they had in a long time. One day, as they sat in a cozy cafe, Henry looked into Janet's eyes and said, Janet, I know we have had our ups and downs, but I truly care about you. Will you give us a chance to make this work? Janet smiled, her heart warming to his sincerity. Yes, Henry, I'll give us a chance, she said softly. Henry's face lit up with joy. You won't regret this, Janet. I promise to pamper you silly. Babe, you are in for the best part of your life, he said, giving her a gentle kiss on her forehead. After they left the cafe, happiness was written all over their faces. They looked like two lovebirds, inseparable and full of joy. Their love grew stronger with each passing day. They spent a lot of time together, going on walks, having dinners, and just enjoying each other's company. As days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, their love only grew stronger. One day, Henry invited Janet over to his place for dinner. Janet had no idea that Henry had something special planned for her. When Janet arrived at Henry's house, she noticed that the lights were dimmed and soft music was playing in the background. She walked in, curious about what was going on. As she entered, she saw Henry on his knees, holding a small box with a ring inside. "Janet," Henry began, his voice filled with emotion, "will you marry me?" Janet's eyes filled with tears of joy. She had never expected this moment to come so soon. "Yes, I will," she shouted, her voice full of happiness. Henry slipped the ring into her finger, and they both stood up, embracing each other tightly. It was a magical moment for the lovers. They celebrated their engagement over a bottle of sparkling juice, toasting to their future together. As they sat together sipping their drinks, Janet looked at Henry and said, "I can't believe this is happening. I'm so happy, Henry. Thank you for making my dreams come true." Henry smiled, holding her hand. "I'm the lucky one, Janet. You make me happier than I've ever been. I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you." They spent the rest of the evening talking about their future, their plans, and their dreams. They knew there would be challenges ahead, but they were ready to face them together. They had found love again, and they were determined to make it last. As the night came to an end, Janet and Henry sat on the couch, holding hands and looking forward to their bright future. They knew that their love was strong enough to overcome any obstacles that came their way. Janet was an orphan, so when she decided to marry Henry, she knew she needed to involve her uncles, who had always looked out for her. After making arrangements, Janet and Henry visited her uncle's house. The meeting was filled with warm and greetings and heartfelt discussions. Henry respectfully asked for Janet's hand in marriage. Her uncles were happy for her and welcomed Henry into their family. They gave Henry the marriage list, which contained the traditional requirements for the wedding. Henry accepted the list with a smile, eager to fulfill every request. After visiting Janet's uncle, Janet and Henry decided to visit Judy and Louis. Judy had been Janet's best friend for a long time, and Janet wanted to share her happiness with her. When they arrived at Judy and Louis's house, they were greeted with open arms. "Judy, I have some exciting news," Janet said, her eyes sparkling with joy. "Henry and I are getting married." Judy's face lit up with genuine joy and smile. "Oh, Janet, I'm so happy for you," she exclaimed, pulling her friend into a tight hug. Louis also congratulated them warmly. Judy then called Jason to join them. When Jesse came into the room, he saw the happiness on everyone's face. "What's going on?" he asked curiously. "Jason," Judy began, "your birth mom, Janet, has some good news to share with you." Jason turned to Janet, who smiled at him. "I'm getting married to Henry," she said softly. Jason congratulated his birth mom, but then said, "I won't be joining you because the only family I know is here, with Judy and Louis." Janet's eyes softened. "I'm not asking you to follow me, Jason. Judy is actually your mom. She is in a better position to keep you, and I can't contend with that. Judy knows how to take care of you and she loves you so much," Janet said, hugging Jesse tightly. As all this was happening, Judy felt tears welling up in her eyes. Jason noticed and walked over to her, giving her a big hug. "You are the best mom in the world," he said, reassuring her with his words. Henry and Janet spent a little more time with Judy and Louis, chatting and laughing. Before they left, they gave Judy and Louis the date for their wedding. It was a joyful moment for everyone. The wedding day arrived and it was a beautiful celebration. Henry and Janet were surrounded by family and friends as they exchanged vows and promised to love each other forever. The ceremony was filled with love, laughter, and happiness. After the wedding, Henry and Janet lived happily together. Their love grew stronger each day and they cherished every moment they spent together. Janet felt grateful for this second chance at happiness and worked hard to be the best version of herself. Over time, Janet and Judy rekindled their friendship. They often met for coffee, shared stories, and supported each other through life's ups and downs. Their bond grew stronger and they became even more closer than before. Jason remained with Judy and Louis, knowing he was loved and cared for. He often visited Janet and Henry, enjoying their company and feeling happy to see his birth mom in a good place. In the end, everyone found their own happiness. Janet and Henry built a beautiful life together, filled with love and joy. Judy and Lois continued to be a loving family for Jason, providing him with the support and care he needed. The story of Janet, Henry, Judy, and Lois is a reminder that love, forgiveness, and second chances can lead to beautiful new beginnings. And as they all lived their lives, they cherished the bonds they had formed and the happiness they had found. Once upon a time, there lived a kind and hardworking man named Jude. Jude came from a poor background. He was an orphan and had a tough life, struggling to make ends meet. Jude had a little sister named Lisa, who he worked very hard to provide for. Even though Jude was a graduate, he had never been able to get a good job. He worked tirelessly, but his efforts were not rewarded with a good income. He felt like an elephant that walked a lot but ate like an ant, meaning he didn't get enough for all his hard work. Lisa relied on him for everything, and this motivated Jude to keep working hard. Although Jude worked a lot, he had a hobby of watching wrestling regularly. One day, a guy named Musa, who also regularly visited the sports center, noticed Jude's passion for wrestling. Musa struck up a conversation with Jude, and they discovered they both supported the same wrestling champion. From that day on, Jude and Musa became good friends. Musa often visited Jude at his home, where he met Jude's sister, Lisa. Jude introduced Lisa as his world and the person he loved most in life. One day, Jude and Musa went to watch a wrestling match as usual. Musa suggested they place a bet, but Jude was hesitant, saying he had no idea how to do it. Jude asked Musa to place a bet for him, but Musa replied that he didn't have the money to place the bet. So Jude generously gave him some money to play with. Musa placed the bet for himself and then encouraged Jude to try it too. Jude handed over more money and Musa placed the bet for him as well. They both sat down to watch the match, and to their surprise, all their games won on Saturday. With only the Sunday matches remaining, they waited anxiously for Sunday to arrive. And when it did, they returned to the viewing center to watch the remaining matches. Luck was on their side again, and they both won a huge amount of money. Jude was overjoyed and offered Musa a token of appreciation from his winnings. Even though they had won the same amount of money, Musa, acting like a boss, collected the money without hesitation, even though he had only won because of the money Jude had given him to play with. Jude used his winnings to send his sister Lisa to the university. He managed to make ends meet with the little he earned from his job. Meanwhile, Musa squandered his own winnings on drinking, womanizing, and eating excessively. Despite this, they continued to bet together, sometimes winning and sometimes losing. Musa even encouraged Jude to start betting on his own, and Jude began to develop a passion for it. One evening, Jude called Musa to invite him to watch a match together, but Musa declined, saying he was busy with his girlfriend. Jude pointed out that they had been friends for a long time, and yet he didn't know where Musa lived or had met his girlfriend or any of his family members. Whereas Musa knew Jude's place and sister, Musa replied that his family was in the city and he was alone in town, but hopefully Jude would know his house soon. Jude got the call and went to watch the wrestling alone. On a whim, he decided to try his luck by betting on 4 matches that evening, using a small amount of money to potentially win 20 million. To his surprise, all the games won and Jude was overjoyed. Overjoyed, he called his friend Musa and shared the good news with him after cashing out the money the next day. Musa quickly ran to Jude's place to congratulate him in person. Jude decided to split the money equally, giving Musa 5 million while keeping 15 million for himself. Musa was over the moon with joy and showered Jude with praises. Jude then asked Musa what he planned to do with his share of the money. Musa replied that he would think about it, but Jude already had a plan in mind. He told Musa that he intended to invest his share in a business venture, hoping to grow his wealth further. Musa's life took a drastic turn. He squandered his share of the money on extravagant night outs, lavish spending, and reckless betting. He frequented bars and clubs, buying rounds for strangers and flaunting his wealth. Women flocked to him, drawn by his newfound status and generosity. In no time, Musa's money was finished. Jude had invested his money in a foodstuff business and was now his own boss. He was determined to succeed and worked very hard. His success came at the cost of his social life, as he was often too exhausted to watch wrestling matches after closing his shop late. Meanwhile, Musa was facing a crisis. His landlord had given him an ultimatum: pay the rent by next day or face eviction. Desperate and frustrated, Musa reached out to Jude for help. When Jude asked about his share of the 5 million naira, Musa claimed he had invested it in an online business that was yet to yield any returns. Trusting his friend, Jude sent him some money to cover his rent and expenses until his online business took off. However, unknown to Jude, Musa had squandered the 5 million naira on lavish parties, expensive drinks, and reckless gambling. As the days went by, Musa continued to struggle. He was stuck in a cycle of debt and deception, and he didn't know how to escape. Jude, on the other hand, was ignorant of Musa's trouble. He was busy running his successful business and enjoying the fruits of his labor. He had no idea that his friend was drowning in debt and desperation. One morning, Musa called Jude again out of desperation. "Please, guy, I need some cash from you, and it's urgent. My life depends on this, please," Musa said. Jude, sensing the urgency in Musa's voice, asked him to come to his shop so they could discuss the matter in person. Musa arrived at the location, his eyes widening in shock as he took in the sight of Jude's massive, well-stocked shop. "Wow, who owns this place?" Musa asked in shock. Jude laughed. "My friend, it's my shop. I just opened another branch in town. I'll be leaving this one for my manager to manage while I handle the new one." Jude revealed. "Wow, did you have money somewhere before? Or did you open the shop with the 15 million we shared?" Musa asked. "Well, let's just say it was the 15 million. But let's forget about that for now. What's going on with you? What debt were you talking about on the phone the other time?" Jude asked. "I was scammed in an online investment. As I'm talking to you, I'm in debt of 2 million. I need help, Jude," Musa said nervously. "I'm really sorry, guy, but next time, don't invest online. I'll give you 4 million. Pay the 2 million you owe and invest 2 million wisely," Jude said, sympathizing with him. "Thank you so much, Jude," Musa said gratefully. Jude smiled and said, "Amen." The hustle is against poverty, not friends. But make sure you do physical business and make wise decisions. Musa returned home feeling relieved and grateful for Jude's help. But as he walked into the door, a stupid thought spread across his mind. He started laughing to himself, thinking, why bother with business when Jude is there to work and give me money? My job is to enjoy his wealth. He laughed out loud, feeling a sense of entitlement wash over him. Then he pulled out his phone and dialed one of his girlfriends, inviting her over to keep him company. Hey babe, I just got some good news. Come over and let's celebrate, Musa said, his voice dripping with excitement. The girlfriend agreed, and Musa spent the rest of the day lounging on the couch, waiting for her arrival. When she walked in, he greeted her with a charming smile and a bottle of chilled champagne. As they sipped their drinks and chatted, Musa couldn't help but feel proud of himself. He thought, I'm a genius. I've got that fool working for me, and I get to enjoy the fruits of his labor. After all, I'm the one who taught him how to bet, and now he's reaping the financial rewards. Musa continued to live lavishly, believing that he could always rely on Jude for more money. He didn't realize that his deception and irresponsible behavior would eventually catch up with him soon. Jude's business continued to thrive. He had opened a new branch in the city and was enjoying the financial freedom he had worked so hard for. He was also giving his sister Lisa the life he had always wanted for her. Musa, still living a life of luxury and entitlement, had started to squander the 4 million naira Jude had given him. He had invested none of it in a physical business, as Jude had advised, and instead, he used it to fund his lavish lifestyle. He had convinced himself that Jude was his personal ATM and that he could always count on him to bail him out. He didn't even bother to pay his outstanding debts. 2 months had passed since Jude last heard from Musa, so he decided to reach out to him by phone. They exchanged pleasantries, and Jude promised to visit Musa over the weekend when he came to check on his shop. Musa was thrilled and sent Jude his new home address, eager to reconnect. Just after their call, Jude's manager phoned him about an emergency. A customer wanted him to be present while she bought foodstuffs because she wanted larger quantities. Jude, feeling free and available, decided to handle the issue personally and headed to his old town for an unplanned trip. Upon arrival, he efficiently carried out the transaction. Since he was already in town, he thought it would be a good opportunity to visit his friend. However, when he tried calling Musa's cell phone, it wasn't going through. Determined, Jude decided to try his luck and headed to the address Musa had provided. As Jude arrived at the address, he noticed something odd. The houses in the compound were luxuriously furnished, not what he expected from someone struggling to pay debts. He knocked on a random door, and a well-dressed woman answered. I'm looking for a friend, Musa. He lives here, Jude said. The woman replied, Oh, Musa, that troublemaker. You seem gentle. How come you are friends with a jobless and deceptive man who only knows how to change women? Jude laughed. Musa is not a troublemaker. The woman pointed to a flat, and Jude walked towards it. As he approached, he overheard a lady talking to Musa. Use the remaining money to start something before it runs out, she said. Musa laughed. Even if the money finishes, Jude is my personal ATM. He will send me more. With a friend like Jude, I don't need to work. He barely doubts me, so I'll keep taking money from him while we both enjoy ourselves. The lady asked, What if Jude finds out later that you've been lying to him? Musa replied, Sweetheart, he will never find out, trust me. Jude's eyes widened in shock as he listened to Musa's conversation with the lady. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Musa, his supposed friend, had been lying to him all along, taking advantage of his kindness and generosity. The truth hit like a ton of bricks. He felt betrayed, angry, and disappointed. Jude wanted to enter and confront him immediately, but he decided to calm down and think things through. He didn't want to confront him in front of the lady. He needed time to process the information he had just discovered. After a moment of contemplation, Jude decided to leave without seeing him, choosing to walk away from the situation and gather his thoughts before deciding on a course of action. Later in the night, at Jude's place, he couldn't shake off the thoughts of what he had just heard. He thought about the 5 million naira he had given Musa and how he had been squandered on a lavish lifestyle instead of being invested in a physical business as promised. His mind raced with questions. How could Musa have betrayed his trust so callously? Did he ever really consider him a friend? Or was it all just about what he gets from him? What about the lady inside Musa's house? Who was she? And what was her role in all of this? Jude decided to move on and block Musa's number from reaching him. During the weekend, Musa called Jude's phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Musa tried again and again, but Jude had made sure to block his number. For 2 months, Musa was still trying to reach Jude, but his calls went unanswered. Meanwhile, Jude focused on his business and his sister's school, enjoying the peace and progress. Musa, on the other hand, had squandered all the money he had, and his debtors were chasing him about. Desperate and in a tight spot, Musa tried to reach out to his friend again, this time using one of his girlfriend's number. To his surprise, the call went through. When he answered, Musa complained about being unable to reach him for 1 month and asked for an urgent 1 million, claiming he was in a distressed situation, but he received the shock of his life. Never call this number again, Jude said. And with that, he ended the call. Musa was shocked, defeated, and more desperate than ever. Musa was stuck where he stood. He couldn't believe Jude had hung up on him. He had never been cut off from his financial support before, and he didn't know how to handle it. He tried calling him again, but his number was still blocked. In fact, Jude had taken it a step further and blocked the number he had used to call him earlier, making it impossible for Musa to reach him. Musa's debtors were on his neck, and he had no money to pay them. He had squandered every last kobo, and now he was facing the consequences. He began to panic, wondering how he would get out of this mess. One by one, his girlfriends, including the lady Jude had overheard him talking to earlier, began to abandon him. They had only stuck around because of his wealth and lavish lifestyle. And now that he was broke, they saw no reason to stay. Musa was left alone, with no one to turn to. And then his phone rang. It was his sister from the village. "Brother, Mama is very sick. Please, we need money for medication," she said, her voice trembling. Musa's response was immediate and angry. "Can't you see I'm going through a tough time? Go and look for money yourself. Don't bother me with any family problems right now." And with that, he ended the call, leaving his sister in tears. But then, an idea entered his mind. Why not use his sisters to set up Jude, so she could get money from him? Jude had never met any of his family member before. He quickly called his sister back, and she picked up while crying. Musa apologized for the way he spoke to her earlier and lied to her, saying that a friend of his had scammed him and had taken all his hard-earned money, which was why he was so unhappy. Mirabel sympathized with him, and Musa continued to spin his web of deceit. "You can help me get the money back from him," Musa said, his voice laced with desperation. "How?" Mira asked, confusion evident in her tone. "Why don't you report your friend to the police?" she advised. Musa refused, saying that the police wouldn't help him since his friend was powerful. "You are my only way out, Mira, and I promise you will have enough money to pay your school fees." Mira agreed to help her brother, but she was hesitant. "Okay, I'll do it, but how do I go about it? I don't even know the person, and how do you think he will accept me?" Musa's response was quick and calculated. "There is someone this friend loves so much in his life. Her name is Lisa. She is his sister and she also in the same university as you. I will send you her picture and department. Make sure you trace her and make friends with her. You can get to her brother through her. Mira agreed to help her brother, but she had no idea that he was only using her to get to Jude. Little did Mira know she was about to become a pawn in Musa's game of greed and deception. After all the call, Musa sent Lisa's photo to Mira. Mira downloaded the photo and was shocked to see Lisa. Lisa was in the same hostel as her. Although they weren't close friends, Mira couldn't believe the coincidence. She called Musa back, her voice trembling with excitement. I know her. She's in the same hostel as me. We aren't close, but I know her. Musa's response was eager. Wow, you are my lucky charm, Mira. Now you have to be close with her so you can get to her brother. Mira replied, okay, bro, I'll do it. Then they ended the call. Musa jumped on top of his bed, pumping his fist in the air. I'm a very lucky boy. My luck will never run out. Jude, I'm coming for you with full force. Meanwhile, back at the hostel, Mira started to observe Lisa more closely. She noticed that Lisa was friendly and well liked by everyone. She was always busy with her studies, but she also made time to help others. Mira thought that becoming friends with Lisa might not be too difficult. The next day, Mira decided to make her move. She approached Lisa in the hostel's common room, where Lisa was reading a book. Hi Lisa, Mira said, trying to sound casual. Lisa looked up and smiled. Hi Mira, how are you? I'm good, thanks. I was wondering if you could help me with something. I'm struggling with our math assignment and I heard you're really good at it. Lisa's smile widened. Sure, I'll be glad to help. Come, let's sit down and go over it together. Mira sat down with Lisa, feeling a bit nervous, but as they worked on the assignment together, she started to relax. Lisa was kind and patient, and Mira found herself genuinely liking her. Over the next few days, Mira and Lisa spent more time together. They studied together, ate meals together, and even went for walks around the campus. Mira felt guilty about her brother's plan, but she kept reminding herself that she was doing this for her family. One evening, as they were walking back to the hostel, Lisa asked, So Mira, do you have siblings? Mira hesitated for a moment before answering, Yes, I have a brother. His name is Musa. He's been going through some tough times lately. Lisa looked concerned. I'm sorry to hear that. Is there anything I can do to help? Mira forced a smile. Actually, there might be. Do you think I could meet your brother? Maybe he could give me some advice on how to help Musa. Lisa nodded. Of course. My brother Jude is always willing to help. I will arrange for you to meet him. Mira felt a mix of relief and dread. The plan was in motion, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was betraying Lisa's trust. A few days later, Lisa introduced Mira to Jude. Jude was polite and friendly, just as Lisa had described. As they talked, Mira could see why Lisa admired her brother so much. He was hardworking, kind, and generous. But deep down, Mira knew she had to go through with the plan. She couldn't let her brother down, even if it meant deceiving these good people. As they said their goodbyes, Jude gave Mira his phone number. If you ever need anything, just give me a call, he said with a warm smile. Mira thanked him and promised to stay in touch. As she walked away, she felt a pang of guilt. She was about to betray the trust of a kind and generous man, all because of her brother's greed. Back in her room, Mira called Musa to update him. I've met Jude, and he seems really nice. I don't feel good about this, Musa. Musa's response was harsh. Don't be soft, Mira. Remember this is for Mama. You need to get close to Jude and get as much money as you can. Do whatever it takes. Mira sighed, feeling the weight of her brother's words. She knew what she had to do, but it didn't make it any easier. Musa was growing impatient. constantly calling Mira and asking if she had made progress with Lisa. How long does it take to make friends with someone? He would ask. I need money, Mira. And you need your school fees too. Please be fast with whatever you are doing. Mira tried to explain that forming a genuine friendship with Lisa took time, but Musa wouldn't listen. He kept pressuring her to be fast, to get Jude's attention so they could start getting money. One day, Lisa invited Mira to join her on a walk. Mira was thrilled, seeing it as a sign their friendship was growing. But as they walked, Mira's phone rang. It was Musa. How is it going with Lisa? He asked urgently. Have you gotten Jude's attention yet? Mira replied she would call him back, then cut the call. Lisa asked who it was. Mira said it was her brother and she would talk to him later. When she was alone, she called Musa back. He asked if she had gotten Jude's attention. Amira replied she didn't meet Jude and needed more time. So he needed to be patient. Musa's response was angry. Patient? You want me to be patient? My debtors are on my neck, Mira. I need money from Jude. Mira felt anxious, knowing she had to end the call but also kept Musa calm. I'll try my best, bro. Please trust me. But as she hung up, Mira knew she was in trouble. She was caught in the middle of her brother's game and she didn't know how to escape. Before the weekend, Lisa told Mira she would be going home. Mira saw an opportunity. She begged Lisa to take her along, and after some emotional blackmail with tears, Lisa agreed. Lisa and Mira traveled to Lisa's home, which was also Jude's house. Mira was nervous as they arrived at Jude's house. She had finally gotten close to her target, but she knew she had to be careful. Lisa, your home is beautiful, Mira said, trying to sound friendly. And what about your parents? She asked, trying to get more information. Before Lisa could answer, Jude appeared, smiling. I'm her only family, he said. Mira was surprised by how handsome and charming he was. For a moment, she forgot about her mission and was attracted to him. But she quickly remembered why she was there. This man cheated my brother, she thought to herself, feeling conflicted. Jude approached them, looking at Mira. Lisa, your friend is beautiful, he said, his voice smooth. Lisa and Mira smiled, but Mira's smile was fake. I'm very hungry, Lisa said, looking around. Is there any food in the house? Jude laughed. You didn't tell me you were coming home today, so I didn't prepare anything. But we can go out to eat tonight, and tomorrow you can cook. Lisa smiled and hugged her brother. That's my brother, she exclaimed, her eyes shining with love. Mira smiled, but she was still on guard, thinking about her next move. As they prepared to go out for dinner, Mira noticed how close Lisa and Jude were. They seemed to have a special bond, and Mira found herself admiring it. But she wasn't going to let her mission down. Over dinner, Lisa got a call. She excused herself to respond to the call. Mira and Jude exchanged awkward smiles, but eventually they started talking. So Mira, what do you study? Jude asked, his eyes sparkling with interest. I'm studying business administration, Mira replied, trying to sound confident. That's great, Jude said. I'm sure you will do well. How about your parents and siblings? My parents are fine. I have 3 siblings, Mira said. I'm sure they looked up to you, Jude said, his voice warm and friendly. As they continued talking, Mira found herself opening up to Jude. She told him about her family, her dreams, and her fears. Jude listened intently, his eyes never leaving hers. Are you single or in a relationship? Jude asked, his voice gentle. I'm single, Mira replied, trying to sound casual. That makes 2 of us, Jude said with a smile. I've been too busy with work to focus on relationships anyway. Mira nodded understandingly and he continued. Lisa means the world to me. By the way, she's my only family and I'll do anything for her. She's been through a lot, and I want to make sure she's happy and safe." Mira's heart warmed at his words. She could see the love and devotion in his eyes, and it made her feel a little guilty for her mission. After finishing their meal, Jude asked the waiter to pack takeout for Lisa, who had left her food to answer the call. While waiting for her sister, he suggested they take a walk to the car. Mira agreed, and they strolled through the cool evening air. "You know, Mirabel," Jude said, his voice low and gentle, "I really enjoy talking to you. You are smart, beautiful, and kind. What more could a man ask for?" Mira blushed, feeling a flutter in her chest. She knew she had to stay focused, but Jude's charm was making it difficult. After some time, Lisa came from nowhere and apologized for taking so long on her call. She asked if her own food was ready, and Mira handed her the package. They all entered the car and Jude drove away. On the way home, Mira sent a WhatsApp message to Musa, who had called her several times. Mira informed him that she was currently in Jude's car and they were heading to his house. Musa replied with a smile emoji and wrote, "All the best." They all got to the house and Jude told Lisa to make Mira comfortable as he would be heading to sleep since he had to go to work early. Lisa quickly brought her food and ate while Mirabel was sitting down with her, just chatting on her phone. The next day, being Saturday, Jude dropped some money for Lisa to prepare food before he left. In the evening, when he returned, he was welcomed with the good aroma of food. Mira had helped Lisa cook, and the smell was everywhere. Jude called out to Lisa to serve him. As he was very hungry, Lisa served him food, and to Mira and Lisa's surprise, Jude, who didn't eat much, finished the food. He complimented Lisa on her cooking, saying it was very well done for the first time, but Lisa replied, "It's Mira, my friend, who cooked it." Jude was impressed and complimented Mira, even bringing money from his pocket and giving it to her as a token of appreciation. Mira was very happy because she needed money. On Sunday afternoon, Lisa went to the mall to get provisions for school, leaving Mira alone in her house. While Jude called out to Lisa but got no response, he decided to walk towards Lisa's room, only for Mira, noticing his footsteps, decided to pretend she was making a call, begging her brother for school fees because her exam was approaching. Hearing the conversation from Mira, he quickly knew that the person on the other end wasn't ready to help, so he gently knocked on the door. Mira pretended to end the call. Jude asked her what was wrong, and she broke down crying, saying her parents and elder brother weren't ready to pay her school fees, and her exams was approaching. She was just crying. Jude pulled her from the ground and sympathized with her, promising to give her the school fees and asking her not to cry anymore. Mira was surprised by Jude's kindness. She had thought he would be mean and heartless, but instead, he was being very helpful and understanding. She felt bad for trying to trick him, but she pushed that feeling aside and remembered her goal. "Thank you, sir," Mira said. "I really appreciate your help." Jude smiled and patted her shoulder. "Don't worry, Mira. I'm happy to help. You are a friend of my sister, and that makes you a friend of mine too." Jude gave Mira his phone number and told her to call him if she needed help with anything at school. He also asked for her account number so he could send her money. Mira was very grateful and quickly sent her account details to him. Jude sent a lot of money to her right away, and Mira was so happy that she hugged him. Just then, Lisa walked into the room and cleared her throat to get their attention. Jude apologized and excused himself. Mira ran to hug Lisa, thanking her for her brother's help. Lisa was happy to see Mira and her brother getting along, but she was also a little surprised that they were hugging after only knowing each other for 2 days. "I'm happy for you," Lisa said, "but we need to get back to school now." So they packed their bags and Jude dropped them off at the bus station. Before saying goodbye, Mira asked Jude if she could call him sometimes, and Jude said yes. Mira and Lisa got on the bus and went back to school. As soon as they got back, Mira called Jude to thank him again and let him know she arrived safely. Jude told her to take care of herself and Lisa. Mira said she would. The next day, Mira used some of the money given to her to pay her school fees. Then she called Musa and told him that Jude had given her a lot of money. Musa told her to send all the money to him, but Mira said she needed to pay her school fees first. Musa said her school fees weren't important right now. She should send him all the money. Mira decided to send him most of the money, but kept some for herself without telling him. She wisely paid her school fees without letting Musa know. Musa called Mirabel back and said, "I got the money you sent. You are the best sister ever." Mira smiled and thanked him. Then he reminded her, "Make Jude love you, but don't love him back. This is a trick. Do it right. Remember, he cheated your brother, so don't be kind to him." Mira promised, "I won't fall for him. I will get all your money back, no matter what." They both smiled, happy with their plan, and hung up the phone. After her call with Musa, Mira attended her lectures but struggled to focus. She wondered what she could do to win Jude's heart and make him fall deeply in love with her. After some thought, she laughed and refocused on the lecture. Later, she met up with Lisa in the restaurant. They bought snacks and grabbed a bite to eat before heading back to their hostel. Mira then called Jude, who was happy to hear from her. She thanked him for the money which she had used to pay her school fees. He smiled and encouraged her to stay focused on her studies. Mira asked if she could send him the receipt of the school fees on WhatsApp, but he replied that it wasn't necessary. However, Mira insisted and he eventually agreed. Instead of sending the receipt, Mira sent her beautiful photos. He complimented her on her appearance, and Mira apologized, claiming her phone had malfunctioned and that the photos were meant to be the receipt. He replied that it was fine and that she was very beautiful. Mira thanked him and asked for his photos in return, but he said he didn't take photos due to his busy schedule. Mira responded with a crying emoji and went offline. Jude called her back, apologizing for not taking photos and suggesting she ask Lisa for a picture of him instead. Mira insisted that she needed him to send the photo to her himself. Jude eventually agreed, saying she could take as many photos as she wanted when she and Lisa visited him again. Mira continued talking to Jude daily without Lisa's knowledge, and this went on for over 6 months. During this time, Mira used various tricks to collect a significant amount of money from Jude, often claiming her father or mother was sick or needed financial help. Sometimes, he even offered her money without her asking. Mira started feeling guilty, realizing that Jude didn't seem like the person Musa had described. She began to suspect that her brother was using her to take advantage of Jude's kindness. Despite this, Mira had successfully made Jude fall in love with her over the few months they had been talking. Mira's conversations with Jude continued, and she found herself enjoying their talks more and more. She started to feel a pang of guilt every time she tricked him into sending her money. His kindness and generosity were genuine, and she began to question Musa's true intentions. One day, Jude asked Mira about her family, and she found herself opening up to him about her struggles. Jude listened attentively and offered words of encouragement. Mira felt a sense of comfort and support, and for the first time, she wondered if she was doing the right thing by deceiving him. As the days went by, Mira's conscience grew stronger. She started to feel like she was taking advantage of his good nature, and the guilt weighed heavily on her. She began to make excuses to avoid asking him for money, but Musa noticed and grew suspicious. "What's going on, Mira?" Musa asked over the phone. "You are not getting as much money from Jude as you used to. Is something wrong?" Mira hesitated, unsure of how to respond. She didn't want to admit her growing feelings for Jude or her doubt about Musa's intentions. "Nothing, bro. I just need to work on my approach, that's all." Musa's tone turned stern. "Remember, Mira, this is a game. Don't get too close to him. We need to get all the money we can from him." Mira nodded. Even though Musa couldn't see her, she knew she had to make a choice. Mira's mind was troubled by Jude's persistent calls, asking for a response to his romantic proposal. "Mira, when will you give me a reply? I've been asking you to be my woman for over 2 months now," Jude said. "I really don't want to hurt Lisa. How will Lisa feel if she knows I'm having something to do with you?" Mirabel asked. Jude smiled from the other end of the call. "Well, I already told Lisa my feelings and she gave her approval." "Are you sure?" Mira asked. Jude replied, "I don't tell lies. If that's the case, just give me some time to think. I'll surely give you a reply," Mira told Jude. And Jude replied, "How long will it take? It's been 2 months already. Or you don't like me?" Mira replied, "Not so. I really like you." "But what?" Jude asked. "Don't worry. We will see during the weekend. I will visit you," Mira said. "You are free to come visit. Just let me know when you will be coming, so I will know how to reschedule my appointments at the shop." Jude replied, "I will come on Friday, then return on Sunday. My final year exams are approaching," Mira said. During the weekend, Mira told Lisa that she would be visiting her brother's place. She asked Lisa to join her because it wasn't proper to stay with Jude alone in the house. Lisa replied that she had too much work to do and couldn't make it, suggesting that Mira invite him over instead. Mira explained that she had already promised to visit him. Lisa assured her that her brother is a nice person who wouldn't take advantage of her. Mira arrived a bit late at the park in Jude's city. Jude, being a gentleman, waited for her patiently at the park. As they drove to the place, Mira couldn't help but think that someone as nice as Jude couldn't possibly be a scammer. She was determined to get to the bottom of the mystery. Jude decided to stop by the eatery on their way to pick up some food for their evening meal. When they arrived at his place, Mira was surprised to see that it has undergone significant transformation since her last visit. Mira dropped her bags and headed to the kitchen to pick up a plate to dish the food they had bought, while Jude freshened up. As they sat down to eat, Jude asked Mira if she was ready to accept him now as her man. She replied that she had already accepted him by agreeing to visit his place. He smiled, held her hands, and promised never to hurt her. Mira asked Jude if she could ask him some questions, and he agreed. She asked what someone could do to him that he wouldn't forgive. He replied that he hated lies and wouldn't forgive anyone who lied to him. Mira felt terrible, knowing that she had been deceiving him all along. She asked if he had ever scammed or cheated anyone before, but he replied that he hadn't and that he hated cheaters and liars. Jude asked Mira why she was asking so many questions. Mira replied that she was just getting to know him better. After they had finished eating, he asked her to go rest since she had a long trip from school. Then she headed to his room to sleep. While in Lisa's room, Mira felt miserable. Everything she had been telling Jude were lies, but she was very sure he was not a bad person. And she didn't know when she started having feelings for him. She was restless, so she left her room and walked around the big house, feeling restless. After some time, she went to Jude's room, opened the door, and saw him sleeping peacefully. She wondered how she would tell him the truth. She tapped him and told him she had something to say, but he dragged her into bed and told her they would talk tomorrow. He cuddled her and they both slept peacefully. Meanwhile, Musa was at his place, enjoying himself with some groups of friends. They were drinking and partying with girls in his house. The next morning, she woke up with a scream. Jude was on the phone, shouting at someone. One of his workers had lied to him, and he screamed, "I don't forgive liars. I hate liars. You are fired." The words sounded like Jude was talking to her. When he noticed his call woke Mira up, he quickly apologized to her. Mira was frightened by the way he was shouting. She had never seen him in a such mood before. After he apologized, he reminded her that she wanted to say something the previous night. Mira told him that it was nothing, that she felt lonely, so she came to his room. Jude replied, "So sorry about that. We can both share this room if you are okay with it." "No problem," Mira said. She left the bed and went to the kitchen to prepare something for breakfast. While cooking, she was lost in thought and ended up burning the egg she was frying. Jude perceived the smell from his room and ran to the kitchen to turn off the cooker, only to see Mira lost in thought. He asked Mira what was wrong with her, what the matter was, but Mira replied that nothing was wrong. Regret for her lies was written all over her. Jude told her, "You can't say nothing. Something is worrying you, Mira. Final exams are in 2 weeks. So many things are going on my mind. After school, what next?" She lied. "My love, just read and write well. After school, you don't need to worry about that. You can manage one of my shops. And besides, soon you will be my wife." Jude replied. Mira smiled. "I'm sorry about the burnt food. Let me prepare another one." She left him and went to prepare another meal. After they finished eating, Jude excused himself to his shop, promising he wouldn't be gone for more than an hour. As Mira was washing the dishes they used, Musa's call came in. She picked up and Musa asked why she had stopped sending him money. Mira replied, "How much did Jude scam you?" He slaughtered for a few minutes before responding, "I need money, don't ask me useless questions." Mira replied, "I know he didn't scam you, but I will get to the root of this matter." He shouted, "Keep quiet, I need money today." Mira replied, "I'm not sending you any money. Besides, I'm in love with him. He's a nice guy. I love him so much and I can't hurt him anymore." Musa laughed from the other end of the call. "You fool. You better straighten your brains. I told you to play a game. I didn't ask you to fall in love. If I don't get money today, you won't like what I will do to you," he threatened Mira. After Mira hung up the phone, she thought to herself, "I should tell Jude the truth. He hates liars, so it's better he forgives me or ends the relationship." Just then, Jude sneaked up behind her and held her. Mira smiled and said, "Welcome back, dear." He turned her around, held her face and asked, "My pretty baby, can we go out tonight?" Mira agreed, but asked what they would do. He suggested, "Firstly, let's swim in my swimming pool outside. Then we can go out and explore the city." Mira agreed, and they spent the afternoon swimming and enjoying each other's company. After swimming, Mira felt tired and refused to go out. Jude had planned a surprise outside, but since Mira refused to go outside, he changed the plan. So he called some people to decorate his house while Mira was resting. When everything was ready, Jude asked Mira to put on a beautiful dress he had bought for her. She was hesitant but eventually agreed. He led her to the sitting room, which was dark. When she got to the spot he wanted, he turned on the light, revealing a beautifully decorated sitting room filled with roses and balloons. He held her hands, brought out a ring and asked, "Will you marry me, Mira?" Mira smiled but then remembered her lies. She shouted, "No, I can't marry you, Jude. I'm not worthy of you or your love." He smiled. "What do you mean you are not worthy of me or my love?" Mira replied, "I'm a liar, Jude. I've been lying to you. Everything is a lie. I'm so sorry for hurting you." Just as Jude tried to slap her, Mira realized it was just her imagination. Jude held her hand and asked again, "Will you marry me?" Mira, Mira stammered, "Yes, I will." He put the ring on her finger and hugged her tightly. "I love you, my love," he whispered in her ear. Mira replied, "Same here, dear." After a while, Jude asked, "What next?" Mira smiled, "Nothing. After your exams, we can visit your family and I'll introduce myself to them and do the necessary traditional rites to make you officially mine." Jude responded, "Don't you think everything is happening fast?" Mira asked, "I'm not getting younger, and since we love each other, what should we wait for?" Jude inquired. "It's fine there," she added. "I'll be leaving early morning, so I don't get to school late." "You won't be leaving early, dear. Spend more time with me, or is my presence irritating you?" he asked. "No, dear, I just want to get to school and focus." Mira added, "All right, I will drop you off at school tomorrow," he assured her. After eating, they cuddled and slept. The next day, Jude left early to buy food and provisions for Lisa and Mira. When he returned, he took Mira to school and used the opportunity to visit Lisa, who was happy to see him. He handed them the provisions and money, but Mira refused the money. He insisted and she finally accepted it. He bid the girls goodbye and drove back to his city. Mira headed back to the hostel with Lisa, who teased her about the ring on her finger. Mira blushed and ran away from Lisa, trying to escape her questions. Just then, Musa called, his voice harsh and demanding. "Where is the money I asked you to send?" Mira replied firmly, "No more money for you, Musa." Musa threatened, "If that's the case, I'll call Jude and tell him I sent you to him." Mira pleaded, "Please don't do that, Musa. I will send you money tomorrow, unfailingly." Musa ended the call, laughing to himself. "My little sister thinks she can outsmart me, but she forgot I'm smarter than her. I'll be blackmailing her from now on. Let's see if she won't send me money." After the call ended, Mira felt terrified. "I don't know if I should open up to Jude," she thought. "But if I do, I might lose him. I can't afford to lose him. I truly love him, and my life would be meaningless without him." She was torn. How can I keep giving Musa money? I don't want to keep taking money from Jude. She felt trapped and unsure of who to turn to for help. 2 weeks later, Mira finished her final year exams and returned home to her parents. Musa continued to call her, demanding money, but she begged him to give her time, claiming she is still waiting to receive money from Jude. As soon as Musa's call ended, Jude's call came in immediately. Mira answered and Jude said, "My love, please tell your parents that I'll be coming with my kinsmen to see them by the weekend." Mira replied, "I will do just that." They ended the call with their usual affectionate exchange. "I love you and I love you too." After the phone call, Mira informed her parents that her fiancé Jude would be visiting with his kinsmen. She implored them to keep the news from Musa, and if Jude inquired about her elder brother, they should say he is abroad. Her father questioned the need for deception, but Mira promised to reveal the truth after the marriage. Mira's father wisely cautioned her that starting a new chapter in her life, like marriage, with a lie or deception, might have unforeseen consequences and potentially come back to harm her or her relationship in the future. He encouraged her to be truthful and transparent from the beginning, rather than hiding things and risking potential problems down the line. However, Mira assured him she would disclose everything at the right time. He eventually agreed. Jude arrived with his kinsmen, and Mira's parents welcomed them warmly. Jude introduced himself and his kinsmen. Mira's father asked questions about his personal life, and Jude answered thoughtfully, sharing that he is an orphan and promising to care for Mira, whom he loved deeply. When he inquired about Mira's siblings, her father replied that her elder brother is outside the country while the younger two were in school. The family set a date for the marriage, just 3 weeks away. Mira blushed when it was announced. After the discussion, Mira went to wait for Jude at his car. The lovebirds exchanged sweet smiles and romantic words before Mira bid Jude and his kinsmen farewell, her heart filled with joy and anticipation for their future together. As the wedding day approached, Musa remained unaware. Mira continued sending him money to keep him pacified and unaware of the marriage plans. Finally, the day arrived, and Jude and Mira tied the knot in a beautiful traditional marriage ceremony. Jude's family and business associates joined in the celebration. Just as the ceremony was underway, Musa's phone rang. He answered, and a friend, Kingsley, was on the other end. "Hey, are you around?" Kingsley asked. "Around where?" Musa replied, confused. "At your house. I'm currently enjoying your kid sister's wedding, which is taking place right now. Are you inside? It's been a while. I wanted to see you." Musa's eyes widened in shock as he exclaimed, "Wait, do you mean one of my sisters is getting married?" Kingsley replied, "Yes, Mira is getting married. I thought you were around. Anyway, take care." The call ended, leaving Musa stunned and trying to process the news. Meanwhile, the wedding ceremony continued without a hitch. Jude and Mira exchanged their vows. After the successful ceremony, Jude, Mira, Lisa, business associates, and his kinsmen traveled back to the city. Back in the city, Mira turned off her phone to avoid Musa's calls and messages. She spent quality time with her husband, and they finally consummated their marriage. Jude surprised Mira with a beautiful mini supermarket, which made her incredibly happy. They spent their days enjoying each other's company, getting intimate countless times. Jude promised to love Mira forever, but she knew the promise would soon be broken because she couldn't continue lying to him. Meanwhile, Musa tried calling Mira multiple times, but she was unreachable. He sent countless messages, but none were replied. He grew frustrated and called his parents, accusing them of marrying off his sister without his knowledge. He demanded they send him Mira's new home address, which they reluctantly provided. Upon receiving the address, Musa smiled mischievously, thinking, "She thinks she can turn off her phone and avoid me. Let's see her reaction when she sees me at her doorstep," he said, laughing. The next morning, Jude dropped Lisa off at the park as she could return to school. With the house now empty, Mira prepared to head out to the mini supermarket. But as she opened the door to leave, she was met with a shocking sight that left her speechless. Mira's eyes widened in terror as Musa approached her doorstep, his eyes blazing with anger and betrayal. "You deceived me, Mira," he growled. "You lied to me, and now you are hiding from me. You turned off your phone so I couldn't reach you." Mirabelle trembled, knowing she had to face the consequences of her actions. "Musa, please understand," she pleaded. "Let's go somewhere and talk," she urged, desperate to avoid a scene. "If Jude sees you here, it won't go well for me. Please understand." But Musa cut her off, his voice rising. "No, you understand. You've been lying to me. You got married to my enemy and kept me in the dark." Mira knew she had to think fast or risk losing everything she had worked for. "Musa, listen to me. I'll tell you everything, but please don't ruin my marriage. Jude loves me and I love him. Don't take that away from me." "You must be mad," Musa shouted. "I will leave now, but turn on your phone, and if I don't reach you next time, you won't like what I will do to you." "I promise I will turn on my phone, but please don't ruin my marriage. I love Jude so much, and you can at least do that for your little sister." "Sister indeed," Musa sneered, his voice dripping with malice. "I'm going for now. Send me 1 million naira before evening or else." Mira assured him, her voice shaking. I will, I promise. Musa left the compound, leaving Mira shaking and crying. How long will I continue like this? What have I gotten myself into? She sobbed before composing herself and heading to the supermarket. Mira's day at the supermarket was a blur. She couldn't shake off the encounter with Musa and the threat he had made. She knew he had to send him the money, but she was scared of what he might do next. As she closed the supermarket and headed home, she received a call from Musa. You have 1 hour to send the money. Mira, if I don't receive it, I will make sure Jude knows everything. Mira's heart raced as she quickly sent the money. She was relieved when Musa confirmed receipt, but she knew this was far from over. That night, Jude noticed Mira's distress. What is wrong, my love? He asked, concern etched on his face. Mira hesitated, unsure of how to cover up the truth. I had a problem with one of my employees at the supermarket, she said, fabricating a lie. It's been stressing me out all day. Jude's expression turned sympathetic. I'm sorry, Mira. Don't worry, I'm here for you. Mira felt a pang of guilt for deceiving Jude again, but she knew she had to protect herself from Musa's threats. She hoped that one day she could reveal the truth, but for now, she was trapped in her web of lies. As they went to bed, Mira's mind raced with thoughts of Musa and the secrets she had kept hidden. She knew she had to find a way to end this before it was too late. For 6 months, Mira continued sending her brother money, draining the supermarket funds. The one thriving business was now on the brink of collapse. Mira couldn't pay her workers, and one of them, frustrated and angry, came to Jude's home to confront Mira. Jude, unaware of the supermarket's struggles, had been focused on his own shops and the building he bought for Mira's parents. But when he saw the confrontation between Mira and the worker, he was shocked and concerned. The worker unleashed a torrent of insults, revealing the supermarket's dire state, empty shelves, no restocking, and unpaid wages. Jude was stunned, feeling betrayed and deceived. He took Mira inside and demanded answers. Why didn't you restock and pay the workers? He asked, his voice firm but controlled. Mira hesitated, unable to provide a convincing excuse. I used the money, she stammered. Jude's anger fled. What did you do with the money, Mira? Tell me the truth. But Mira couldn't meet his gaze. Her lies and deceit exposed. Jude stormed out of the house, determined to see the supermarket for himself. What he found was a shocking sight. The one thriving business was now a barren, empty space. After seeing the empty shelves in the supermarket, Jude was both shocked and angry. He couldn't understand what had happened to the thriving business he had set up for his wife. He needed to know where all the money had gone. Jude decided to call the bank to get the statement of the shop account. When he received the statement, he was even more shocked. He saw that Mira had been sending large sums of money to someone named Musa. Jude couldn't understand the connection between Mira and this Musa. His anger and curiosity grew. Determined to find the truth, Jude stormed back to the house. When he got home, he found Mira in their bedroom, crying uncontrollable. Seeing her like this made him feel a bit of pity, but his need for answers was stronger. Mira, Jude began, his voice firm and controlled. Who have you been sending money to? Say the truth and tell me the connection between you two. Mira knelt down, tears streaming down her face. Please, honey, I'm sorry. Musa is my elder brother. I lied and said he was abroad, but he wasn't. He has been using me to scam you, Mira confessed, her voice breaking with sorrow. Jude's eyes widened in disbelief. Your brother? Why didn't you tell me the truth? Why did you lie and say he was abroad? Mira sobbed harder. I was scared, Jude. Musa told me terrible things about you. He said you were a bad person and that you would hurt me. I didn't know what to believe. And then, when I fell in love with you, he started blackmailing me. He threatened to ruin our marriage if I didn't send him money. That's why I didn't tell him about our wedding. Jude's fury grew. Why didn't you come to me? Why did you let him control you like this? I tried, Jude. I really did, Mira said, her voice barely above a whisper. But I was scared. I didn't want to lose you. I thought if I kept him happy, he would leave us alone. But it only got worse. Jude felt a mix of anger and sadness. He couldn't believe that Mira had been living in fear and lies because of her brother. So Musa has been blackmailing you this whole time? Mira nodded. Yes, and now that I'm married to you, he wants more money. I don't know what to do. Jude's face hardened. I can't believe this. You should have trusted me, Mira. You should have come to me with the truth. I'm so sorry, Mira cried. I was just so scared. I didn't know what else to do. Jude stood up, his anger boiling over. I need some air, he said, storming out of the house. Mira watched him leave, feeling utterly hopeless. She knew she had betrayed his trust and that things would never be the same. She had let her brother's threat control her life, and now she was paying the price. Jude walked around the neighborhood, trying to calm down. He couldn't believe everything Mira had told him. He felt betrayed, but he also felt sorry for her. He knew that she had been scared and manipulated by her brother, but it still hurt that she hadn't trusted him enough to tell him the truth. As he walked, he thought about what to do next. He couldn't let Musa continue to blackmail Mira, but also didn't know how to fix the mess they were in. He needed to come up with a plan, but first, he needed to cool down and think clearly. After walking for a while, Jude decided to go back home. He needed to talk to Mira and figure out a way to deal with Musa. When he got back to the house, he found Mira still crying in the bed. Mira, he said gently, we need to talk. Mira looked up at him with tear-filled eyes. I'm so sorry, Jude. I never meant to hurt you. I know, Jude said, sitting down next to her. But we can't keep living like this. We need to deal with Musa once and for all. Mira nodded. What do? We will start by cutting off all contact with him. Jude said firmly. No more money, no more phone calls. We need to show him that he can't control us anymore. But what if he tries to ruin our lives? Mira asked, fear evident in her voice. We will deal with it together, Jude said, taking her hand. But we can't let him keep blackmailing us. We need to be strong. Mira nodded, feeling a glimmer of hope. Okay, I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. Jude squeezed her hand. We will get through this, Mira, together, okay? For the first time in the months, Mira felt a sense of relief. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but with Jude by her side, she felt like they could face anything. They would deal with Musa and rebuild their lives together, one step at a time. After the confrontation and difficult revelations, Jude and Mira decided to rebuild their relationship. They talked about everything, promising each other to be honest from now on. Jude understood that Mira had been scared and manipulated by her brother, Musa. He forgave her, and they both decided to move forward together. Jude knew the first step was to fix the supermarket. He invested money to restock the shelves, hire new workers, and get the business running again. Mira was grateful and worked hard to make the supermarket successful once more. Meanwhile, Musa had been quiet for a few days. Jude and Mira hoped he would stay away, but deep down, they knew he wouldn't give up so easily. One afternoon, Jude tried to call Mira, but she didn't answer. He felt a bit worried and decided to visit her at the supermarket. When he arrived at the supermarket, he saw Musa standing outside, looking angry. Jude took a deep breath and walked up to him. Musa didn't know that Jude already knew the truth about everything. Jude decided to act calmly and see what Musa had to say. Musa, what are you doing here? Jude asked, trying to sound normal. And who gave you my number? Musa sneered. You fool. You are married to my sister and she's been collecting money from you to send to me. Jude pretended to be surprised. Really? Mira never told me that. Musa laughed mockingly. Yes, she has been lying to you all along. While Musa was talking, Jude secretly recorded everything he was saying on his phone. Jude stayed calm and continued to ask questions. So, Musa, you've been getting all this money from Mira. Why didn't she tell me? Jude asked. Musa, feeling confident, replied, because she's scared of me. She knows I will ruin her life if she doesn't do what I say. Jude nodded and said, thank you for confirming everything, Musa. Now I know that my wife wasn't lying to me. Musa's face fell. He realized that Jude had tricked him into confessing everything. Just then, the sound of police sirens filled the air. Musa turned to see several police officers arriving and surrounding him. One of the officers stepped forward. Musa, you are under arrest for blackmail and fraud. We have all the evidence we need. Musa's face turned pale. This isn't fair. You can't do this, he shouted, but the police officers quickly handcuffed him and led him away. Jude watched as Musa was taken to the police car. He felt a mix of relief and sadness. He hoped this would be the end of their troubles with Musa. Jude went inside the supermarket and found Mira. She had seen everything from the window and was crying. Jude hugged her tightly. It's over, Mira. Musa can't hurt us anymore, Jude said softly. Mira nodded, tears streaming down her face. Thank you, Jude. I'm so sorry for everything. I promise I will never lie to you again, no matter what. Jude smiled and wiped her tears away. I know, Mira. We will move forward together and we will be happy. With Musa cut out of their lives, Jude and Mira focused on their future. The supermarket started to thrive again, and they both worked hard to make it a success. They spent more time together, growing closer and building a strong, honest relationship. Mira learned the importance of trust and honesty in a marriage. She vowed never to keep secrets from Jude again. They faced challenges together, supporting each other every step of the way. Jude also felt a deep sense of relief. He knew that they had gone through a difficult time, but he was proud of how they handled it. He loved Mira even more for her bravery and honesty. Months passed and life became peaceful and happy for Jude and Mira. They enjoyed their days working at the supermarket and spending time with each other. They even started planning for their future, talking about having children and building a family. One day, as they sat together in their cozy home, Jude looked at Mira and said, I'm so glad we found each other, Mira. No matter what happens, I know we can face it together. Mira smiled and held his hand. I feel the same way, Jude. I love you and I will always be honest with you. Jude kissed her forehead and replied, I love you too, Mira, always. And so, Jude and Mira lived happily ever after. They learned that love and trust are the most important things in a relationship. They knew that as long as they were honest with each other, they could overcome any challenge that came their way. The most important lesson in this story is the significance of honesty and trust in relationships. Mira's initial dishonesty, driven by fear and manipulation from her brother Musa, nearly destroyed her marriage with Jude. However, when the truth was revealed and they faced the problem together, they were able to rebuild their relationship stronger than before. This teaches us that being truthful and transparent, especially with those we love, is essential for building a solid foundation of trust and overcoming challenges together. And with that, my dear friends, our story comes to a close. But remember, the magic of storytelling lives on, waiting to whisk us away on new adventures, where the wonders of imagination know no bounds. Goodbye for now, and may your dreams be filled with joy, wonder, and endless possibility. Thank you so much for watching. Please kindly comment, share, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting stories.